What's up, my dudes? Let's get this thing rolling. You guys see me? You guys should be able to hear me. And it has been a cool minute since I've done a live stream. At least 6 months. 6 months too long, my dudes. People can't believe it. BitsBeTrippin live stream. It's been way too long. Having, my dudes. So I got, let's see, Nice Hash has it at about 42 minutes. Trying to sync a Bitcoin node that I have right now to see what I can get. If it can sync in time, I don't think it will. We had a node offline here for a while. We were moving some stuff in the back. So we're going to be relying on a few things here. I'm going to bring up a couple different, let's see here, make sure all the things work before we get too far into this. Let's go over to this. Make sure that that's up and running. Cool. I got some shots for you guys on that. I'm going to close out that. Let's see here. That should be coming up on another screen here. And we got some of the site stuff here. I was going to show you guys. Go back to main camera. So, my dudes, it's been a minute. We're getting a few viewers in here. Symbolic event, Bitcoin halving, where all of us get our revenues cut in half. And we see what the next epoch's going to give us, next range of time. Does Bitcoin start to shift upward from a price standpoint? Does difficulty shift down? A few weeks ago, I ended up having a discussion on one of the Twitter feeds about what does people think the halving is going to have the effect on the difficulty. And I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere around 20%, up to 20%, but more than likely we'll probably see a 10% downshift, 8 to 10% here on the next, readjustment. So that's going to be a thing here that we'll be tracking and watching and seeing if this actually comes to fruition. From a, are we going to actually see that big of a drop, or is it just going to keep pressing, my dudes? There's the S21s being delivered. There's some new hardware coming out. We're testing the new Auradine machines. They're going to be shipping soon. So there is a natural upgrade happening right now across the field. A lot of folks finally getting into immersion, evaporative cooling, all the different cooling techniques, water cooling, the HK3s from Bitmain shipping. So the wattage that's being, deployed in power at farms is being more optimized, essentially. People using machines that are way more efficient. Some of these machines, 200 terahash, 230 terahash on an average, where most farms were anywhere from 88 to 105, 108 terahash. So almost a doubling of what we're seeing here. So if we take the stack of, let's say, 500 exahash, we could get into what the next level is. What is the zeta hash? So 1,000 exahash, 1 zeta. So that's going to be all eyes. Is that going to happen? Or are we going to have a 10 to 20% pullback on difficulty? while revenues and operations catch up with their transitions. Seeing some comments coming in. What do you think about the cost of production versus the price? Will that force pauses in mining for older gear? Yeah, absolutely. There's always going to be people that are going to mine forever and pay their power bill and just mine because it's just a different way to acquire coin, using fiat to acquire it. They're happy to pay the power and not turn off. But at any sort of scale, you got to pay your power bill, you got to pay people, you got to pay all that. So, that's going to have an effect on the larger entities. You can burn through a lot of cash really quick if you're unprofitable. So if, halving is 50% drop on your current revenue just off the gate from a reward standpoint. Now, who knows, ordinals, event things having to do with this halving make an effect or a change to, what the halving, does. Like, people mentally, are they going to, hold now, not build a farm, all those kind of things. So we'll see, if it slows for a second, but, a lot of people already had a lot of plans. Like, we have multiple farms right now that we're going to continue to build where they're funded, they're already building. The halving is just an event that happens in the midst of that. It all comes down to what's our power cost and can we be sustainable through the halving with, newer equipment. But there's a lot of people out there that have, aged equipment, couple generations old, 38 to 42 joules per terahash units, which if difficulty goes down 20% and then you have a price increase of, let's say, 10 to 15% from now, they can still be online, but they're going to be really close to break even if they're paying over like 6.5, 7 cents per kilowatt. So it's going to be an interesting next few months for everybody. BBT finally back, says Nick. Never left, my dude. I just haven't been on YouTube. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I'm always on Twitter. Yeah, my head is like perfectly placed where let me scoot over here. There you go, my dudes. Like, what a terrible spot that I could actually have that in right now. It's like on this side, no. Let's see here, 6 blocks left for halving. Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to check here and send over to the screen for you guys also. So I got a couple different tools here running in the background. So let's see here. So for that one, this is not a green screen, my dudes. This is a smart board. So the whole thing behind me is a screen. So CoinMarketCap is showing it 1 hour and 10 minutes. I think they're off. We can look at BitRAR and see what we're looking at here. Let's check BitRAR out. We'll let that run, and let's see where this is at. This will give us kind of where things are at from this epoch. This site's getting hit pretty hard. So we're on it's running 102%, so it's running a little faster. We're at 996, so this shows we got 4 blocks left. So 4 blocks before halving here, and it's running. And right now, the previous retarget was about 4%. The difficulty went up, and now we're looking at a potential retarget of 2%. I mean, that could change a lot. Actually, I think this whole epoch's going to slow down So what happen is this is a good kind of checkpoint of kind of where it's tracking right now. And this is just effectively a calculus equation of what could happen based on current, are you advancing faster than the 10 minutes? Or are you advancing slower? What are on these block solves? So anybody that's never seen this site before, essentially there is your labels. So if you're mining and it was expected, it's that color. If you're mined and it was unexpected, which means you're going faster than what the 10 minutes are to solve blocks, it's going to be that. So for the last probably 25 blocks, it's been going a little faster. And then if it was mined, unmined but expected, so if it's a hollow one here, that means it's running too slow. And I'm betting that this will slow down. I'm betting after 4 more blocks, we'll start to see some empty blocks. So, which means that it just took, people have turned off machines. They've essentially made it to halving. They've got their reward, and they're just not going to sit there and mine, losing revenue. They'll just turn off. And then what'll happen is that 2% is going to go to 0 and lower. And then you will start to see a negative next difficulty adjustment, which is this guy right here. And that's another thing that we're watching for. So anybody looking at that, that's what we're looking at. Look at Justin Palmer with a super chat. What advantages and disadvantages do you see regarding self-host versus hosted? What are your thoughts on capital spent on self-hosting, with the potential looking into self-hosting is BBT? There's a few questions there, Justin. Bitcoin's always kind of like all mining in general. If you're involving any other entity in mining, you're just adding a margin table to somebody's got to be able to afford to have you in their house, essentially, to plug in miners, because you paid for that house and you paid for that plug and you paid for that energy. You have a lot of sunk costs. So then if you're allowing somebody to inherit all of that effort, you have to charge some level of a premium. So like, let's say you're at, 5 cents all in just on the energy rate, not your effort that you're putting in, then you have to charge a couple cents probably extra. So anybody that's looking for hosting, that's part of the I would call it the disadvantage, but because you're going to pay a premium to be able to plug in your machines, because there is a cost. Now, there is some algebra to be had of like, well, if you spent, let's say, a couple $100,000 to build your own setup, what's the algebra to pay off that debt on top of the miners versus just buying the miners and paying a premium for them? It's just all about a time value money equation of how much Bitcoin can you get for your hash rate. And at some point, you're going to be priced out ahead of somebody that's just paying the hosting fees, because they can weather the quote unquote storm as the difficulty readjusts or price goes up. So you're always, unfortunately, as a hosting person, you're always going to be kind of a second class citizen in that world, because like you're going to have to always pay a premium. But sometimes there's enough margin play for that to happen. Like, let's say this halving happens, Bitcoin ratchets up to $250,000 very quickly. Then there's going to be a huge bunch of margin pool for if you already have miners and you have somewhere to put them, it's worth paying that premium to get them on and running, because you're going to generate your return back because Bitcoin's higher. So it all comes down to, at the end of the day, if that's your only option, you can't go build your own site, or you're in an area that just you can't get good power, but you want to participate and you want to mine, then you have to kind of pair up. And what I've looked at of trying to help people establish is, if we get several people together that have enough capital to kind of get into this, or have access to capital to do it, is to pairing them up. And like BBT would come in there as a consultant to help them find a site. And then they, like, let's say it would be like a tri-party relationship. They end up being their first-class citizen in that. They work together to hedge each other's capital to build their own site, and then they are just hosting. They're serving it for themselves, right? Then not having to work as a co-host or something to that effect. But I think there's markets for all of it. Back in the day with GPU mining, it was a lot like that. Purely from a standpoint of, oh, did we lose? Did this go? Difficulty, let's see here. It's open to signed in users. Oh, did they just update this? Did they just change it? Oh, no, they didn't. There we go. I was like, did they just paywall their system? Let's see here. Let's go down here. This is what we're looking at. 996. Is that still it? 5 minutes ago? We're checking right now, my dudes. Just one more. Why, that's figuring its life out. So this is 27 minutes. This still says 996. So that's the blocks there. To work with it. But yeah, to kind of hit back to you, Justin, why we watched that latest block number is the one we're looking for. When it gets down to that last couple blocks, we'll kind of really focus on the halving here. A lot of our stuff that we've done, especially recently, is just working with folks. Like we have partnerships on multiple mines where we've worked out arrangements with other mines or people trying to build mines and either come in as a co-owner. Some of it's capital in, some of it's just our services, and we do the same kind of thing. So finding co-hosting or finding co-relationships to then just put your own miners, and that's kind of the better way to go, my dude. And we used to do, again, what I was saying about the GPU miners. Back in the day when I was doing a lot of content on the GPU side, we'd have a lot of people reach out to us from like New York. They live in Manhattan or, the Bronx or somewhere like where they don't have access to a ton of power. It's expensive power. And they want to build a couple mining GPU setups, and, they're just like, hey, I got to find somewhere else to go do this at, and then working with folks to kind of pair up with, folks that had smaller, like sheds in their back of their, their property in like Virginia with better power price, maybe some solar added or some other kind of incentivized lower rates. Back in those days, it was, 6 to 7 cent power is the best about you could get, when you were doing time of use. So you weren't 24/7, but you were pretty close. You're 18 hours a day, usually at a pretty decent rate. And you would just GPU mine that way, and then maybe work with 2 other people to have their GPUs hosted for you, and, just do like a profit share. So they're paying essentially a pass-through cost on the power and then doing some kind of profit share. So it's like a, 70-30, 60-40 split. And that's essentially covering the power cost. Plus you get, extra yield leveraging your farm. That was another way to do it. Justin, we if you go to BitsBeTrippin.io, we have all that stuff on the site, like for consulting and stuff like that. What I usually tell people is just book like a half hour with us. I can probably answer 95% of your stuff in a half hour. It's very tactical. It's a lot of dense content to kind of do that. And we've gotten pretty good at just making it happen quick for people. And then sometimes you never know if there's a good partnership somewhere there. But yeah, our BitsBeTrippin.io, we have all that listed up there. What else, man? I've seen a lot of names I haven't seen in a long time, my dudes. It's been too long. Their 10th super on a live stream. That's interesting. Is that yours, Justin, or is that I've gotten 10? I don't know. Somebody said they sent me a Discord PM. Dudes, my Discord, like I have Discord and I do not look at the PMs that much. You have a better chance of getting my attention on X. My DMs are open on X, Twitter. it just hit me there. It's way easier for me to answer your Twitter DMs. Not because I don't run like Discord, typically like on the phone, and that's usually the quickest way to get a hold of me. And the same thing with like Telegram and WhatsApp and stuff. I was getting so much spam and just people trying to send me links to shit to try to hack into our stuff. So I just stopped using all that. Like I don't turn them on if I need to contact people, or there's certain folks that want to, I mean, the mining industry lives on Telegram and WhatsApp, right? But I usually avoid it like the plague, just because of all that. But usually Twitter DMs are the best for me. You guys going to be profitable enough to stay mining BTC? Yes. Right now, unless Bitcoin, we're based on our past pro forma, we're going to be okay well into low 50s or high 40s at our current sites. Well, and one site's a little not as good as power rate yet as our place here in Illinois. Our Illinois site has the best power rate. North Carolina is second on our sites here. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, there was a lot of pullback on the market, which has happened almost every halving, where you have like the buying of the news, the sell of the event type of thing. And I don't think this is going to be any different in that. I think, you know, the market makers are going to do what market makers do and shake out loose hands and try to pick up some cheap Bitcoin on, you know, the selling of the new, you know, selling of the event type of thing. But at the end of the day, guys, like just look at the macro, look at the space, look at where we're at since the last halving. There's an ETF. There's a ton of vertical integration throughout all the financial systems. You got governments in the world holding it. You got other interest looking at expanding that holding in other countries, right? So Bitcoin is here to stay. It's an integrated asset, and it's a scarce, you know, scarce on the creation side, right? We're seeing that right now, built into the code, halves every 4 years, and we're about to go through this event here real soon. This thing keeps resetting. I think it's because they're getting crushed right now. Let's try to reset this. Let's see if they built a special site for it. Here we go. So they're having a little better estimator. I would go probably with New Edge here than any of the others. We have two blocks here. Let's see if you guys can see this here. So we're at 839,998, 2 blocks to go. I would have guessed 20s. On BTC price, no. I mean, it's when you take in all-in cost, no, you're like right now we're at about 21 at current difficulty. It'd be in the 40s for most people. I mean, for the best subsidized, which just means somebody's playing with the books to where they are funding themselves in such a way that all of their all-in costs aren't necessarily bottled into what it costs them to mine Bitcoin. They may be in the high 20s, low 30s, but the realities is if you're at about 4.5 cent all in power costs, and depending on your size and your operation, you're probably going to be in the upper 30s, low 40s on break even from just switching out your the cost to convert capital, the cost to on transaction stuff. There's your basic ops cost, your personnel cost, all that stuff if you're a larger farm. So like I'm looking at pubcos as an example. So when they report their $18 or $18,000 Bitcoin price, they're still profitable and they'll be at 32 to 28, like if you just run the basic data through a pro forma based on the efficiencies of current miners versus what they're paying for electricity, like from an all-in cost, electricity distribution, load factor considerations if they're doing curtailments and all that. And that's different for everybody. Some people have, like where we have in Illinois, we have cost avoidance. So we do not incur certain charges from an NCP and a CP, so a non-coincidental peak and a coincidental peak. But then you get some places in the country that actually pay you, so that it's not just an avoidance. They're actually paying you for those tranches of energy. And then that just comes back in as, more capital into your, and essentially buys down your operational rates, right? So it just depends on who you are and what kind of agreements you have. And when I say who you are is if you're a pubco and you've been able to somehow offset certain costs on a deferred like capital requirement, so that it's at like 0% or something to that effect. Your cost of capital is not 8%, as an example. You can play around with what your true cost of ownership is over a period of time. And then certain things are not on, like when you look at the totality of everything that's involved. Smaller operations that have, 2 to 3, 4 people, maybe up to 15 megawatts. It all comes back down to like, what's your leanest way to operate type of thing. Red furry dude. I don't even know, my dudes. Are you talking about Bread Panda? He's streaming too. Everybody should be. What's the favorite firmware for the S19K? S19K Pro so far, it's been kind of a toss-up. I've had pretty decent success with Luxor, but like we've had good success with the latest version of Vanish too. The 1.25 beta 1, I believe, is the one that we're using there. Both of them are really close to the same. I don't do a ton of overclocking on the S19K Pros. A lot of the aluminum heatsink issues, Bitmain, cheaping out on a few things, and causing some, some issues there. At our North Carolina facility, we have to run at a lower rate. So we're running 2,500 watts on most of those machines. So everything's downclocked anyway. So I look at the most efficient for clocks that I can get on that. The Auradine machine that we have right now has been doing really well. The 1500 AT or AT 1500 unit. And that's not even their latest thing. The latest thing, their 4 nanometer stuff's coming out here soon, or 3 nanometer stuff's coming out soon rather. That is the AT 2880. And that's going to be around that 230 terahash for like 4,000 or so watts. So it's going to be that 15, 16 joules per terahash range machine. That's one I'm really interested in, that hopefully in the next couple months we get that, or sooner. We are still waiting for our S21s. We're looking at, we're going to be getting close to 1,000 here at this site when those come in. And then we're working through a deal with Auradine to try to do maybe 1,000 plus with them too. So we're going to be kind of a split house on that and see how they both do. I've had a lot of good success so far with what we've been running. The biggest sellers are miners. Screw them. We don't need them. Rip Bitcoin miners. So miners serve a purpose, my dude. And for the cost of serving that purpose, the security payout that we earn, there is a portion that we have to pay, the utilities. I always tell people, never feel bad about having to sell if you're a producer for this, right? Like, it's part of it. You have to pay for your bills. So it's until all these places start taking Bitcoin, it is what it is, my dude. Are you getting any of the Alphaeum A6? No, man, I slept on that whole entire growth of that. And it's not to say that I wasn't told early about it. Like, people immediately, I saw Son of a Tech, I saw people talking about it, like I could have put our farm on it and we just didn't. We were so busy trying to get this other stuff up, and I totally slept on it, my dudes. I did the same thing with Caspa. We were right in the middle of building the first, our first larger Bitcoin farm, and Totally slept on Caspa too, with our hardware. And, you know, we do have some, well, they're not newer now, but the RTX 4000s. I have some 2000s. They're just sitting here. Thinking about redeploying them into doing some AI ML stuff. Actually, I have a rig that's running with a couple A5000s in it, doing some LLM stuff locally. It's good to see you guys too. 150 people on here, 140. Man, I had an over-under that I was going to have like 10 people on here, my dudes, because I haven't streamed in forever. It's just been so long. Hey, so we got 12 minutes. Would you guys like to see some newer images and videos from our North Carolina facility? Well, one block. Oh my God, dude. We'll do that after. We'll do that after we hit this 11 minutes. One block away. And here comes the Bitcoin pump. Is it going to pump up? We're going to see a surge. They got to get it to $69,000, dude. It's going to be 420 UTC, right? 420.69. Come on, market makers. I know you guys can do it. Let's drive this baby to 69. What are you doing? God candle after 12 minutes. Yeah, we'll get through this. We'll get through this next 11 minutes together. We're here together, and then I'll show you guys some of the newer stuff out there in North Carolina. I haven't been able to show you guys just from a video standpoint, just kind of how we've started to develop and change things as we've learned that building, and some of the things we've had to make changes to, just from a cooling, from airflow, all those kind of things. So keep those questions. Final block reward. I don't know, my dudes. Let's see here. It hit it. Or no. Halving block is that one. Never mind. Sorry. I thought, holy crap, it got advanced quick. So right there's the one that we're looking at. It'll dump. Everybody's thinking it's going to dump. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see here. Somebody's saying that they have it on their node. People can false it, and it'll dump it. You know, it'll deny it. You could have a thing saying, "Boom, halving is done." It just hasn't updated this. It hit. Let's refresh it. 3 minutes. It dropped it. Complete. 37 block reward. Somebody paid some serious capital. Refreshing the page. Let's see. Having complete. There it is. There's some of the details of it. So did it pretty quick. It advanced pretty quick, so we're there. Price hasn't dumped yet. Let's see here. What's coin market cap? Do they start putting up the next halving? No. They finished theirs. Let's refresh Nice Hash. Nice Hash is still behind. We'll close them out. And we're already one block ahead. Huh. Look at their site bouncing around. We've already gotten the next block. So who was the block? Who found it? Mined by via BTC. Via BTC. There was supposed to be an over and under on who was going to win it. 37 in Bitcoin fees. Good for them. Anybody mining via BTC just got paid. I wonder if that was an ordinal. Somebody ordinaled it. Paid a huge fee to have that ordinal minted in the halving block. That's it, my dudes. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at, you guys want to see the setup here. I'll show you guys some of the advancements we've made since I last shown you guys where our site's been at. Let's take a look-ski. Yes, it was ordinal, Justin says. Let's do this and hit play on this guy here. So since you guys last seen, I'm going to show you guys kind of how we've started to organize the site. So this is our North Carolina site, and the way you can kind of see these shelves set up, this used to have a lot of GPU rigs in it, bottom line. And we don't, for an ASIC setup, we don't have the power to fill all of these racks up with ASICs. So essentially we're going essentially to essentially 6.5 foot, and essentially have 4 rows here of miners. And every other rack has where the cabling is setting. So that's the way we've kind of designed this and set this up. What this allows us to do with the size that we have of this building, around 30,000 square foot, allows us to put in about 6,000 machines in this building. So the power, because it was GPU mined before, is on the hot lane side, because that most GPUs, rigs have the power and all the hookups on the same side as the exhaust of the machine. And what we're doing so far, we've been moving the plugs onto the right side of the intake lane just to reduce any kind of issues here. So you can see these end caps actually had machines on them too. We use those as extra shelf space just because we're physically limited based on how many machines we can have in here. So you can kind of see a lot of the cleanup and organizational stuff that we've had to do here at the site to get everything kind of ran and set up. And you can kind of see a lot of the extra cabling that we had pulled out. Maybe one day these things will end up on the our site once we kind of get them unbundled and cleaned up. But you guys can see that kind of set up there too. And then if I come over here and just start a new one here, you guys can kind of see kind of our work area here, little work easels for the team there. Do morning stand-ups and stuff here, and then just have like a lot of our setup here and design for just how things are performing, monitoring that sort of stuff for the folks on the ground to be able to monitor it, have a station there. And then here's the inside, and this is what I was talking about from a standpoint of the way the plugs were on the inside part of this building, the way this was done up. So this is the hot lane of the facility to give you an idea of what the way the hot lane is. And this is a cutout on the roof with an overhanging secondary roof and all the exhaust coming up and out of the building. But this also, if we left these in here through the summer, we'd be really cooking these plugs. So we've been working on getting all of those moved to the other side of the racks. And that's what a lot of the team like Todd and those folks have been there, kind of getting those kind of set up and moved. And then going through in here and just sealing up all these little, crevasses and the things that are in, allow the heat through. It's just a lot of this, nitnoid things that you wouldn't think, but you need to kind of really, come in here and put in insulation cover. And then once that's all done, you can come back in and, bring the AVHC temperature stuff all the way up to the top and just kind of to give it a clean look. But first is fixing, then it's to make it look pretty. This kind of gives you a basic idea of kind of the way the networking and rack stack there is as we start to go through and zip tie that and use those network racks, use the rack for the network and then drop it down into the different spot. You can see the room and the spacing that we have in this facility, where it's just a lot of extra space. The machines aren't right up against each other. It allows them to stay a little cooler. Again, here's another little run through. Let's try to find another good spot here. Here's on the other side where all the Romex comes in and gives you guys kind of a layout of where all the power systems are, or, you know, the power is coming into the building and then over into each of the racks for this both sides. So these are we consider each of these a pod. This building is 200 foot long by 180 foot wide, to give you a sense of scale, at close to 22 foot in the mid pitch of the roof. So all this Romex, which is the power cables coming over, and you know, giving each of the plugs have their own run. So a little over 3,060 plugs in total. So that's 3,060 twin pole 60 amp breakers. It's quite a bit, and you guys will see that here in a second of this site. So again, this is 15 megawatts electricity with some ubiquity tower stack of equipment. And we repurposed an old NetApp server rack for that. And then you guys can see kind of our testing center here. Just to have, you know, a sit rep on things that need to get repaired, being able to pull things over. So we built this testing station off to the side here inside the building to be able to test and test hash boards, fix hash boards, test machines, and then get them back on the rack. So it's a constant flow of effort and work. And any farm like this, you know, you're going to need, our farm here has 4 people. So 4 full-time people to maintain 15 megawatts. And a lot of it comes down to this. So as you're talking close to 6,000 machines. You have, you know, at any point in time, especially for used machines, you could have 89% up with 11% down. Well, 11%, you know, 10% on 6,000 machines is quite a few machines, right? 600 machines. So in this particular case, we had about 203 machines that needed to be, 230 machines that needed some level of work on them. And, you know, just going through, I mean, these were used machines we bought at a lower rate and then just had to go through whatever fixes they were. So it kind of gives you guys an idea of just like organization, having a space to kind of rack and stack and then keep some kind of account for it. This is outside. These are all the panels. These power panels and then the extension of the power panels are and these are full with breakers, every one of them. 17 transformers at our site here, and then all this panel work that was done to bring that over. So you guys can see all the transformers and that in the facility here, and there's a better kind of zoom out to give you kind of a scale of what we're dealing with here when we start talking about that kind of amount of 15 megawatts at a 1,000 kVA. There's different ways to do this. And we have a couple different sites that take this in a different approach where we have, you know, for 5 megawatts, we have just 2 transformers. In this particular situation where we could have went with, you know, maybe 6 transformers of 2,500 kVAs, it was just all 1,000 kVA transformers in place. It gives you a redundancy. Like we did have a transformer, you can see down there in the bottom right, go out, and they brought us a fresh one to replace that. So we have to get that replaced here, and we'll have a video on that process when that comes through. So that kind of gives you guys a quick overview of kind of how things are progressing there at our site out there, of just really getting the breakdown and the setup in place for maintaining equipment as the new stuff's coming in. So BBT Todd was here just a couple days ago. He's out there right now with the team adding in some more. equipment. And actually, he'll be down in South Carolina here, hopefully for pretty soon, doing an immersion cool setup. Justin's saying, hey, rumor is in 2025, 2 nanometer chips at 5 joules per T. I did see a post of that. That's what the current target is. We'll see. I mean, it's the right incentive is in place for people to build the most efficient chip design on the planet. I mean, because these are literally digital printing presses. So yeah, we'll see. You know, it's all about, you always have a ebb and flow to Bitcoin mining. So like it's a crawl, walk, run strategy anyways. Like if you're just starting, you can start with kind of used units that are very highly discounted. And if you have a decent power situation, you can still, you know, partake. And then over time and you get your operations really moving, then you can start to have more capital come in because you kind of built it, people see it, and then you can start to change that equipment out. And it's just kind of this ebb and flow of newer equipment. You know, you to buy a few of these lower, energy use machines. If you're talking like the newest stuff being 15, 16 joules per terahash, maybe you can only buy a couple of units, you put them in, and the yields from those will help you kind of build up your farm until now you get a level of size and scale, and you end up being a provider to the network at some level of scale. So it does take time. And, you know, using that infrastructure that you have in place, you know, with the best stuff that you can put into there, obviously is what you want to do. But, you know, there is some calculus at play. Like if you're buying like the latest machines, you're spending $4,500 for them. Could you buy something that's $1,800, like an S19K Pro that's, you know, 120 terahash at 2,700 watts? You're at 24 joules per terahash. Easily you can get those at 21, 22 joules per terahash. Or get an S21, spend $3,500, $3,800, $4,000, and be at 18 joules per terahash. You're not that far apart, you know, but you spent 3 times the cost. So there is, you know, some, you know, algebra you need to play with it to see what makes sense for you and extend how much money you can have, go as far as you can. Another good play is to try to find some, you know, Pro A's, you know, 110s, 115, 117 units that are kind of in that 25 to 28 terahash range. That's kind of the next meta in general, as the stuff that's like 42 joules per terahash and stuff is going to either fully subsidized power situations or people that just have stranded energy, you know, to where you're creating energy, but you literally have nowhere to go with it. And it's a perfect candidate for a Bitcoin mine. Are you for or against ordinals? That's a loaded question, my dudes. I am for innovation. So if somebody wants to try to innovate and spend 37 Bitcoin to place a picture on the blockchain, I mean, I'm not going to stop them. It's a free market, and they will compete for that fee space in the way that they choose to see fit. If Bitcoin's network became, I think what the fear from like the maxis are, is if Bitcoin's network was just co-opted by people leveraging it for putting pictures in space, time and space, and spending exorbitant fees. As a miner, we secure the network, and for that security, we're paid in the distribution of the inflation of Bitcoin plus fees. So it obviously increases our yields that we get for that. It's not changing the rules on, you know, changing the amount of Bitcoin that's coming out. It's still 21 million. And if the redistribution of somebody that has a lot of Bitcoin wants to leverage their Bitcoin in that way and pay fees, they are an equal participant as far as I'm concerned. So is it damaging Bitcoin? I think that's when you start to get kind of into the concepts of philosophy versus mechanics, right? The mechanics say that somebody can transmit a transaction, and if they want to pay a large portion of that block space and that fee, that's they're welcome to do that. That's part of what it can do. Is it sustainable long term? Who knows? I mean, art's been around for a long time. People appreciate it. Maybe digital art becomes its thing, and it's one of the many vessels that Bitcoin handles. So I look at it more pragmatically of like innovation and what people want to do with that block space. And it doesn't change anything for me from a mining aspect. Like it's another person that's buying a ticket for a block, to participate in a block. All right, my dudes. Ready for, I saw somebody saying that there was going to be a God candle. We haven't seen it yet, but we'll see how the next few days go. I think it's going to be interesting to see if the blocks slow down, which means people are shutting machines down. We were at a retarget. Let's see if we can refresh this and see what the Bitcoin network from its next date and time for readjustment is. This thing is just like a big tablet. Super convenient. We're 3 blocks in, so there's no death spiral. So that's good. It still seems to be advancing at normal speed, which I think will continue to happen. So we're looking at next target is Wednesday in 4 days, 4 days and 12 hours. So right now we'll see if that is the case. And it thinks the longer term of that's going to be at 9 o'clock, an hour later. I'm betting after Monday, it'll start to slow down some, and we'll probably see this probably Thursday or Friday. If Bitcoin slows down and that 2% potential uptick drops to 0 or lower, and then the next epoch range, which is going to be this one, or the next one here is probably going to take longer. I bet you it's 17, 18 days. And we'll probably see a 5, 8, 10% drop in network difficulty. So we'll see. That's a forecast, my dudes. And that's what we're going to be watching for. So the only thing that makes that not change is if Bitcoin starts to rifle straight up price-wise. If we see 100K in the next couple weeks, then this difficulty is going to keep going up because people can still play. Awesome, my dude. Well, I'm going to wrap this one up. It was a great live stream. I missed you guys. Hopefully you guys like some of the content. It's been a minute. I will try to do more of these. I miss doing this. I miss having the conversation with you guys and doing this. I do need to put more time into this on this aspect of it. If you guys need anything or questions or anything like that, you guys can always send me a DM on Twitter or hit me up on Twitter. I do try to answer most of those. And then, yeah, let's do some content, my dudes. We got a lot to cover, and a lot of builds. So you guys will see some builds coming up here soon too. So yeah, make sure to like and subscribe and following. If you're needing any consulting stuff, hit us up on BitsBeTrippin.io. All the forums and stuff are there. And let's get this going, my dudes. I missed you guys. It's been great. Good to see you guys. Good to see some of these names I haven't seen in a while. I'll catch you guys in a bit. Peace, my dudes.